So we are doing it a little bit different today. Take a second to introduce myself. My name is Mrs. M. I am Mr. M's wife.
Yay.
And he is the one behind the camera today. Normally that's me. So we got a special book to read today, and I thought it'd be really cool if I read it. So let's start off. It's called The Original Cowgirl, The Wild Adventures of Lucille Mulhall, and it's by Heather Lane, pictures by Suzanne Beaky. The Original Cowgirl, The Wild Adventures of Lucille Mulhall, by Heather Lane, pictures by Suzanne Beaky. Lucille wasn't like most girls in the 1890s. Instead of skipping with her mama's clothesline, she twirled it like a lasso. Whoosh, whoosh, snap! Your onomatopoeias. Lucille could rope a fence post in 3 seconds flat. Lucille's papa, Colonel Zach Mulhall, saw right away she could be a mighty fine ranch hand. Her mama did not. Roping and riding were not ladylike. Lucille didn't care about sewing or cooking or becoming a lady. Ladies rode side saddle, and riding side saddle was slower than a snail climbing a greased log. Lucille wore a split skirt, and she rode astride, just like the cowboys. By the time she was 10, Lucille was mending fences, training racehorses, and herding cattle. Lucille swung her lariat at jackrabbits and chickens. The family dogs had to watch their tails when Lucille was around. During the spring roundup, Lucille asked her papa, "When can I have my own herd?" "When you're old enough to rope and brand your own cattle," he said. Colonel Mulhall soon discovered she already could. And see, she's already branded it. Lucille's mama worried about her a lot. The pastures were filled with longhorns, wolves, and coyotes, so mean they could turn the strongest cowboy into buzzard food. Wild animals didn't scare Lucille. When a wolf was killing her calves, she rode out to search for him. She spotted the vicious varmint eating in the pasture and charged with her lariat swinging. Whoosh, whoosh, snap! The wolf put up a ferocious fight, but he was no match for Lucille. The only thing that scared Lucille was not being able to ride and rope, so she always hid her scrapes and bruises from her mama. One day, she roped an unbroken horse in the pasture, and it pulled her clear out of her saddle. Tangled up in the lariat, Lucille bounced behind the galloping horse. Finally, she cut herself free. When Lucille was 13, her papa organized some rough riding and roping competitions for his cowboys. Lucky for Lucille, he invited her to come along. She stuck like a burr to her galloping pony, and with a gentle flick of her wrist, her rope sang for the crowd. Newspapers praised Lucille, the darling young girl who held the audience in a breathless spell, and was the envy of half the men. Folks had never seen such a fearless girl. But Mrs. Mulhall decided it was time for Lucille to become a lady. She sent her to a boarding school in St. Louis. Sad and lonely, Lucille longed for her pony and the prairie. At the end of the term, her papa welcomed her home with a beautiful 16-hand chestnut horse. Governor was smart and sweeter than the lump of sugar. Lucille knew right away she could train him to be a sensational trick horse. He has his big red bow on him. That summer, a committee invited Colonel Mulhall and his cowboys to entertain Vice presidential candidate Teddy Roosevelt in Oklahoma City. They asked Lucille to show off her roping and riding skills. Mrs. Mulhall shook her head. "I don't wish my girls to be tomboys." The committee begged. It was unpatriotic to say no. Lucille pleaded. At last Mrs. Mulhall agreed, but on one condition. It would be Lucille's last appearance. In front of 25,000 spectators, Lucille made the most of it. Roosevelt bowed to Lucille and told her she was as good as any of his rough riders. "Zach, before that girl dies or gets married or cuts up some other caper, you ought to put her on the stage and let the world see what she can do. She's simply great," Roosevelt insisted. Colonel Mulhall reckoned it was a fine idea, and Mrs. Mulhall couldn't stop them. Was the world ready for a girl cowboy? Traveling around the country, Lucille thrilled crowds with her daring acts. From El Paso to St. Louis to New York, newspapers spread the word about Lucille Mulhall, the golden-haired girl who weighed only 90 pounds but can break a bronco lasso and brand a steer and shoot a coyote at 50 yards. So she's traveling all these different places. Some folks thought she was plumb crazy. In most states, women couldn't even vote or own property. She thought they were the crazy ones. "I feel sorry for the girls who have to attend so many teas and be indoors so much," she said. Lucille raced against cowboys, rode wild broncos, and performed tricks with Governor. She roped 5 galloping cowboys all at once. Reporters hounded her for interviews. "Aren't you afraid your horse will slip and fall?" a reporter asked. "Oh, I expect that," Lucille answered. "I'm not afraid of getting hurt." Lucille preferred to spend her time roping and riding and performing, not talking about it. When Lucille was 15, she entered her first professional steer roping competition. Some men laughed at her. A woman roping and tying a 1,200-pound steers? Some made bets against her. No other woman had ever competed against men in a professional steer roping contest. Lucille didn't give a lick about what other people thought. She steadied her horse. The steer charged out of the pen. Lucille took off in hot pursuit, swinging her lariat. Her first throw landed over the steer's giant horns, but the rope broke, and the steer escaped. Quick as a jackrabbit, she spun around another rope. Whoosh, whoosh, snap! The loop settled around the beast's horns. Then she flipped him up like a flapjack. In a flash, she jumped off her horse, and with 2 raps and a hoonie, she tied the steer's feet. 29.5 seconds. Faster than any of the men. Soon Lucille broke the world record for steer roping. Cowboys and folks all over the world cheered for the woman who could rope and rode better than a man. Other folks still believed Lucille belonged in the home, not on a horse. But her home was always on a horse, with the sun on her cheek, a lariat coiled in her hands, and the boundless Oklahoma prairie rolling out in front of her. So here we kind of see just a little timeline about her life. This is a lot of information. I wish I had time to read it, but we don't. Lucille was a fantastic woman who stood up for what she believed in, and she became phenomenal at what she did. So to all the girls out there, reach for your dreams. Don't let anything stop you, and don't let any man tell you that you can't do it better than them.
Girl power.
Have a great day, everyone.